information about the death of a woman at a Milwaukee motel.
A 29-year-old woman and mother of two was found shot dead. As our Bill Miston discovered, the woman's husband was arrested.
A motel cleaner knocked on room number 5 twice that Wednesday. First time? Alicia Matchnik answered, said she needed one more night. Second time, a couple hours later, silence. He opened the door and found her on the bed with a gunshot wound to her head. 29 years old, mother of two, and her husband, Lance White, had walked out that same morning. Girl, let me tell you something. This is the story of how a mother never made it home to her daughters. When the clock strikes midnight, the truth comes out. I'm 12 a.m. crime, and every single day I bring you real cases of domestic violence that turn deadly. The stories the system tried to bury, the victims who deserve justice. If you're about that raw, unfiltered truth, hit subscribe. New case drops every day at midnight. Don't sleep on justice. This is 12 a.m. crime. Alicia Renee Matchnik was 29 years old when she died. She had two daughters, Malinna, 14, and Jakii, just 2 years old. 12 years between them, but both of them needed their mama. And on that Wednesday in January 2025, at the Port Motel on Milwaukee's northwest side, Alicia took her last breath in room number 5. Her sister would later say that Alicia was the heart of their family, a caring mother, the kind of woman who held everything together even when her own life was falling apart. Like, that's what mothers do, right? They sacrifice, they hold on, they keep showing up for their babies even when the person they're supposed to trust most is the one breaking them down. Alicia was married to Lance White, the man who would be arrested for her murder, the man who checked into that motel with her on a Monday afternoon and walked out alone on Wednesday morning while she lay dead inside. But let's back up. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A city where domestic violence had already claimed lives in 2025. At least 6 people killed that year, and about half of those deaths were tied to violence in the home. Intimate partner violence, the kind that happens behind closed doors, in motel rooms, in places where nobody's watching until it's too late. Alicia became part of that statistic. Another name, another mother gone, another family destroyed. The Port Motel near 97th, and Apple wasn't some luxury spot. It was the kind of place people stayed when they needed somewhere cheap, somewhere temporary, somewhere to disappear for a while. Court documents would later reveal that Alicia and Lance had stayed there multiple times over the past several months. Not once, not twice, multiple times. That tells you something right there. When a married couple keeps checking into motels instead of being home, something is wrong. Make it make sense. So what was happening in their lives that kept bringing them back to this motel? We don't know all the details. What we do know is that this wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a spontaneous decision to get away for the night. This was a pattern. And patterns like that, they don't form in healthy relationships. Monday afternoon, Alicia and Lance checked into room number 5. Together. Whatever was going on between them, they walked through that motel door as husband and wife. The cleaner saw them. The motel had records. They were there, and they were there together. For 2 days they stayed in that room. Nobody knows what happened in those 48 hours. What words were said. What arguments went down. What kind of fear Alicia might have felt, or what kind of rage was building in Lance. All we know is that by Wednesday morning, something had reached a breaking point. Wednesday morning came. Lance White left room number 5. Surveillance footage caught him, walking out. No struggle visible from the outside, no commotion, just a man leaving a motel room. And girl, here's the thing that should make your stomach turn. After Lance walked out, nobody else entered or exited that room. Not a single person. The footage was clear. He left, and Alicia stayed inside, already gone. The cleaner made his rounds that morning, sometime before Lance left. Knocked on the door of room 5. Alicia answered. She was alive. She told him she wanted to stay another night. He said okay and moved on to clean other rooms. That was the last time anyone saw Alicia Matchnik alive. A couple hours later, the cleaner came back. Knocked again. No answer this time. He knocked again. Still nothing. He used his key and opened the door. Alicia was lying on the bed. A gunshot wound to her head. 29 years old. A mother of 2. Dead in a motel room while her husband was already gone. Let's walk through what we know happened that Wednesday. The timeline is important here. Pay attention. Morning. The cleaner knocked on room 5. Alicia answered. Alive. She wanted to stay another night. Late Wednesday morning, Lance White walked out of room number 5. Surveillance cameras at the Port Motel caught him leaving. He didn't run. He didn't look panicked. He just left. And according to those same cameras, nobody else went into that room after he walked out. No mysterious stranger, no unknown suspect. Just Lance leaving and Alicia inside. Shortly after 2:30 in the afternoon, this is when investigators believe Alicia was shot. A single gunshot wound to the head, in that motel room where she'd told the cleaner she wanted to stay one more night. In that room where her husband had just walked out hours earlier. A couple hours after the cleaner's first visit, he came back, knocked on the door. No answer. Knocked again. Nothing. He opened the door with his key, and that's when he found her, Alicia Matchnik, lying on the bed, a bullet in her head. Her life over at 29. The cleaner called 911. Police arrived at the Port Motel. They secured room number 5. They started pulling surveillance footage. They started asking questions. And the answers they got pointed in one direction. Milwaukee Police Department took over the scene. They documented everything. The gunshot wound, the position of Alicia's body, the lack of forced entry, the lack of any sign that someone had broken in, because nobody had broken in. The person who killed Alicia had checked into that room with her on Monday. Detectives pulled the motel's surveillance footage. They watched Lance White leave that morning. They watched the hours tick by. They watched the cleaner go in and come running out. And here's what they didn't see. They didn't see anyone else enter or exit room 5 after Lance left. The search warrant filed in, the case laid it out plain. No one else enters or exits the room. That's a direct quote from the court documents. No one else. Just Lance walking out and Alicia dead inside. Investigators started looking for Lance White. They checked his known addresses. They talked to family members. And that's when they found out where he'd gone. Lance had driven to his mother's house, about 2 miles from the Port Motel. Not far, just far enough to put distance between himself and that room where his wife was bleeding out. His mother would later tell police something that should have raised every red flag. She said her son was acting out of character, as if he was under the influence of some sort of drugs. Those were her words. Out of character, like he was on something, like he wasn't himself. But here's the thing. When someone shows up at your door acting strange right after they've killed somebody, that's not drugs. That's guilt. That's adrenaline. That's the weight of what they just did sitting on their chest. His mama knew something was wrong. She could see it. She could feel it. So what did she do? She took him to the hospital. Maybe she thought he needed medical help. Maybe she thought he was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe she just wanted to get him somewhere safe. We don't know what she was thinking, but she took him to the hospital, and that decision led police right to him.
Monday afternoon, 29-year-old Alicia Matchnik checked in at the Port Motel near 97th and Appleton. Late Wednesday morning, a cleaner stopped by room number 5. Matchnik answered the door. She wanted to stay another night. When the cleaner returned a couple hours later, there was no answer. And when he went inside, he found Matchnik lying on the bed, dead, with a gunshot wound to the head. Those details coming from newly filed court documents in the investigation. According to a search warrant, Matchnik checked in with her husband. The two had stayed at the hotel a few times over the past several months. Fox 6 is not naming the man, as he has not been charged with a crime. Filings say Matchnik's husband was seen leaving their hotel room late Wednesday morning and, quote, no one else enters or exits the room. Public records say the man later went to his mother's home a couple miles away. The mother told police her son was, quote, acting out of character, as if he was under the influence of some sort of drugs. The mother said she took her son to the hospital. That's where police arrested him Wednesday night. So far this year, at least 6 people have been killed in Milwaukee. Domestic violence victim advocates say about half of those have been domestic violence related. Since Matchnik's death, her family started a GoFundMe to help support her 2 children and seeking justice. In Milwaukee, Bill Miston, Fox 6 News.
Wednesday night, less than 12 hours after Alicia's body was found, Milwaukee police showed up at the hospital where Lance White was with his mother. They arrested him right there. He wasn't charged immediately. The investigation was still developing. But he was in custody. The man who walked out of room 5 that morning was now in handcuffs. Meanwhile, Alicia's family was falling apart. Her sister was the one who went public first. She didn't wait for the police to say who did it. She didn't wait for charges to be filed. She said his name, Lance White. She told the world that her sister had been killed by the man she married, the man she trusted, the man who was supposed to protect her. Police were still calling it an investigation into unknown suspects. That's what they do. That's procedure. They can't just come out and say someone's guilty before charges are filed. But Alicia's family wasn't bound by those rules. They knew who killed their sister. They knew who left those 2 little girls without a mother, and they said his name out loud. The family called it what it was, a domestic violence homicide, not a random act of violence, not a robbery gone wrong. Domestic violence, the kind that builds over time, the kind that traps women in cycles they can't escape, the kind that ends with a mother of 2 dead in a motel room. 2 little girls woke up one morning with a mother. By that night, she was gone. Malinna, 14 years old. Jakii, just 2. Malinna will grow up knowing exactly what was taken from her. She'll remember her mama's voice, her laugh, her hugs. And she'll grow up knowing that her father is the reason her mother isn't here. Jakii won't remember any of it. She'll grow up with photographs and stories. She'll ask questions nobody wants to answer. Where's my mama? And somebody will have to tell her that her father killed her mother, make it make sense. Alicia's family started a GoFundMe to support the girls, because grief doesn't pay the bills. Her sister described the pain as immeasurable. They asked for prayers, privacy, and support, but more than anything, they asked for justice. The family didn't wait for the courts. They said his name out loud. Lance White killed Alicia Matchnik. And they demanded accountability. This is what domestic violence leaves behind. Children without parents, families destroyed, communities asking how this keeps happening. Milwaukee had already seen 6 killings that year, half tied to domestic violence. Alicia was one of them. But she wasn't just a number. Alicia Renee Matchnik deserved better. Her daughters deserved better. Rest in peace, Alicia. Your girls will know your name.